Welcome to the Wrap-Up, a VR live stream focused on keeping you up to date with the adoption of universal profiles and growth of the new creative economy. Join us as we uncover the fusion of technology, artistry, and innovation that's redefining how we create, share, and experience in this digital age. It's time to wrap it up. Oh, Mike was not hot. There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome into a live stream where anything can go wrong at any time. This is the wrap-up, wrapping up a week's news in LUKSO. Today is August 11th. Alts, how you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, my friend. It's been a very exciting week in the Pink multiverse. So yeah, I'm happy to be with you on this Friday. Hope everyone's doing great.
All right. Well, you know, there's a lot that went on this week. We got a really packed show. I hope you enjoy the show as we move through it today. Why don't we start off by going up and to the right? Up and to the right is a segment where we provide a weekly review of the markets through a LUKSO perspective. We'll present a range of prices from the lowest to the highest, and we'll give you the prevailing price at the time of the broadcast for the LYX token. Moreover, we'll provide a summary of the market capitalization, and we'll compare the existing market framework with our market cap goal. Right now, we're aiming for a humble top 100 placement. And then I'll give you the indicated price point. So Alts, at the time that I marked all this stuff down and got it into our Notion page, our 7-day low was $5.87. Our 7-day high was $7.31. We had a current price of $7.06. This was current as of about 12:30 Eastern time. That gives a market capitalization of about $204 million. And if we wanted to be in the top 100, we would need a market cap of about $322 million. If we assume our float to be roughly 31 million tokens, that would give us a price of $10.38 Lux. If you're wondering what type of projects we'd have to hop over to get to the top 100, right now, top 100 on CoinMarketCap is Arweave. Last week, it was Bone Shiba Swap, and Bone Shiba Swap jumped to 91. Apparently, Bone Shiba Swap's on the move, Alts.
Well, we need to track them down. We need to just keep them in our sights and eventually overtake them. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good to see, we're the chart's looking like a giant cup and handle, for the chartists out there. But no, I'm excited. We CoinMarketCap actually did update the circulating supply. It's not quite accurate. I don't think it's at 29 million. I think the official number is like 30.8 million. But yeah, happy to see that we're headed up to up in the charts. Top 100 is I think it's going to be in our sights before too long. And then once we get there, then we're on a lot of more radars, right? And then people will say, "Oh my gosh, a giant pie of fundamentals to dive into."
A giant pie of fundamentals just going to swim through those bad boys. Oh God. I mean, we could get into price talk a lot. We talk about all manner of things, but price talk really is not the subject for this show, although it's nice to lead off because everybody's interested in it. But there's going to be so many more assets on this blockchain. And really, we're not necessarily concerned primarily with the native token Lux. Its price up or down will just be a byproduct of how successful this network is. So just as an example, we thought we'd throw up a token this week. It is the dematerialized asset of the week. This is kind of an OG token. It's the Artifact Loops, Artifact Cross the Fabricant. The total supply is 100. Do you have any of these alts?
I do have a pair of those. As you'll note, my little Murakami Panda chain earring right now, I'm rocking that. But in honor of these, I need to get these rigged on my avatar. But I do have a set, and I was happy to grab those. Plus, I got the Ethereum rings from that same drop, which was the official drop was from DMAT times Fabricant on LUKSO, in times of Artifact, right, on LUKSO. And there was a couple of other really, epic OG pieces, but these are super OG pieces. And yeah, only 100 supply. I feel fortunate to have them. And I snagged a poison bag too, which was a free gift from. They actually had a slight issue with the drop because the demand was insane. Go figure, right? There were so many of us back in the day. These things sold out in seconds. So I got fortunate to grab a pair. And I know there's a lot of people out there probably wanting to get some of these things. which will be nice once we get these L14 assets ported over to mainnet, and then we get a marketplace and we can kind of trade and do some swapping. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting time once those start rolling out.
Yeah, that won't come right away with the launch of universal profiles, tentatively, let's call it mid-September right now, because I'm just being really conservative.
Yeah,
We're
that's
going to
good.
get universal profiles, then we'll get the migration, right? So I'm going to have to wait to get a hold of some of these assets because I'm the guy who was working when this drop happened and couldn't get to my terminal fast enough.
Not going to make it, ETH. Not going to make it.
NGMI, bro. NGMI. Oh, God. But we wanted to highlight that token today because, like I said, there's a lot more going on in this ecosystem than just the Lux price. So that actually brings us to our network update. Now, our network update is quote unquote sponsored by Lux Tools, not in dollar terms, but in the generous development and upkeep of a community good by Vlad Lakonis. Lux Tools tells you can gain valuable insights into your LUKSO blockchain transactions by aggregating and visualizing your withdrawal history. Explore your daily balances and monitor your rewards effortlessly with our intuitive web app. That's for Lux.tools, and that's a tool primarily used by stakers, right? Used by me. I will endorse that as a user. Let's give you some staking information right now. Right now, our total number of validators is 43,334. That gives you active validators of about 39,600 with pending validators over 3,700. Someone is depositing a whole bunch of validators as we speak. So the entrance wait time is up to 4.15 days. The active rewards that we have right now is about 13.8%. And our total staked is, you can see, total stake Lux is up over 1.2 million Lux staked. That's pretty awesome. And so many of those stakers, actually almost all of those stakers, because staking pools are unavailable, are the god tier of staking. Those are solo stakers at home. So this is really healthy for the network, and I love to see it.
Yeah, I love to see the continued, organic growth. And this is like before those staking services come out, before DApp Node and stuff. So yeah, shout out to the OGs doing it, organic style. And we're only going to see this continued growth, and just makes the ecosystem stronger, more robust, up and to the right, and growth as well.
Up and to the right, and growth as well. Like you said, the network is so much more than just tokens and price. We got a great thread about LSP1, the universal receiver that was put out by the LUKSO network itself. Alt, you got thoughts on this?
Yeah, great thread. It's really nice to, the universal, like the LSP1, the universal receiver, like it's legit going to be like a game changer. Like when you really kind of understand it, that our wallets, like they need to be able to do more than they currently do, on Ethereum. Like they should be able to communicate to each other so that we can actually achieve some new stuff like interoperability, right? And it needs to be, but it needs to be standardized approach, like to make them all future proof. Like that's where the LSP1 would come in. It kind of delivers this unified function to where they can all adapt. It makes it more forward facing, and allows us to unlock things like NFT 2.0, on-chain identity, reputation, actually decentralized social media. Like the future of it is definitely more programmable and upgradable, which is really important. And LSP1 is a key factor in that.
Yeah, I love LSP1. It's not a very understood standard, I would say, by the average person, especially if you're just new to blockchain. You probably don't understand why having something that is effectively listening to all blockchain transactions would be valuable for you. But it's going to tell you, are there interactions with your blockchain account? It's going to help your account automatically recognize what tokens it holds, what the influx is, and like what is going out of your account. I think it's a really powerful solution.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's pretty funny that people are still building with ERC20 at this stage, given that this upgraded set of token standards, it sits before us, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, I think it's like it highlights that asymmetry of information that we currently have over the rest of the space. Like it feels like, right? Like when the guy who authored the standard, the ERC20 standard, 7 years ago, I think, like he understood back then it was more of a band-aid. and has since gone on to make something way better. So the rest of the space should be paying attention, but they're really not. But it just goes to show why we need a new L1 in regards to that in the first place, because it's a big ask, right, to get people that have been building the same way for several years to really kind of shift their model of thinking and be more forward facing. And I don't think that's going to change, right? But one day they'll be forced to change, or they'll be risking falling behind. But let's be honest, like most will probably just fall behind. It's just kind of the evolution of things, and that's just kind of how it goes. But for those that are smart enough to kind of see the writing on the wall, I think they're going to be miles ahead in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a tweet thread come out from KEEZ, which is actually the thread of threads. And the thread of threads was put out there by, I think, Beef Banks and Yellow Turtle from KEEZ. And the reason that they put that out there is there are so many of these new proposed standards, or really let's call them fundamental blockchain building blocks for the LUKSO network. KEEZ has been throwing out these little LSP threads for a couple months now. And now this is the thread of all those descriptions. You might say, who are Beef Banks and Yellow Turtle to be making description of the LSPs? And I would say they are very diligent, and they make sure that they run these descriptions by the smart contract team over at LUKSO. So you can be sure that what is said is accurate. So you should go ahead and you should check out the thread of threads, because if you're looking to get a sense for what these new building blocks are, I think that that is an incredible thread, even though I don't really like threaders, that you could check into.
I mean, if when it contains that much alpha, it's not even, it transcends the term thread, so it's way more meat on the bone. It's not engagement farming. It's like pink pill alpha, for the masses to consume, for those that are willing to actually read in this space. Right. But I know it can be a lot harder, to kind of remember and understand all the differences between the LSPs, so shout out KEEZ. It's a wonderful thread to kind of highlight everything. And I think it's definitely advantageous just in general to understand these LSPs, like at the core level, right? If you want to build on the chain, and even as an earlier investor to kind of comprehend, where the future is going. And for the normal person, like they won't really have to know any of these or how it even works, right? Because that's the beauty of all these, standards in the end, is that it allows for the full account abstraction at the core level. So, the average user doesn't have to know any of this stuff, right? But, for those of us who do kind of take it a bit further, we can, find new ways to take advantage of that knowledge.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop here in the middle of this little segment to say two things to you. One, if right now you're like, damn, I really want to find that thread, but I don't have time to click off this broadcast, don't worry about it. We're going to throw timestamps into this show, and we're also going to include the show notes. Head over to keys.space, check out Pink Pill Productions, and you will find the show notes with all of our tweet links. So you can get those tweets and you can check them out yourself. You will never be lost again. I love that. The next thing I'll say is we have a couple tweets coming. First one's from Malozzi. We're talking about these LSPs. Oh, no, first one was from John. So we'll just skip over the one from Malozzi. This is from John. So here's the idea. These LSPs are building blocks, just like if you had butter, right, in your kitchen. You might have some rice, and maybe you have some vegetables, a little garlic, some onion, who knows what you have. But each one of those are just ingredients that when put together become something greater than the sum of the parts, right? Jean, our friend John, one of the smart contract developers over at LUKSO, said, hey, today we discussed the concept of recipes and how LSPs can be combined to do something amazing. Give me some ideas of things you would like to build so we can come up with these recipes to kind of share them with the community. I thought that that's great. I think that that's an interesting way to approach it, calling them recipes to give a non-technical person an insight into kind of how these things go together, the idea that a developer really is kind of cooking. And then on the other hand, for a really technical person, you might have some creative building blocks. You might need an idea that you could expand on. And maybe now the team is going to give you some stems that you can build from, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy to kind of visualize, like what actually would go into all these things. And shout out John. He always brings like such a great energy on the more technical side of things, and tries to kind of bridge that gap. And we appreciate the work you do, fam. And he's got that tweet is very interesting, and he's calling on the LUKSO fam. So like if you have any ideas for the ways that these LSPs could leverage, your project or brands, products, communities, services, protocols, anything, like then, hop in that thread and, let them know what's up.
Yeah, like I said, if you don't know where to find that tweet, let's say you are not a Power X user. I don't know. Do we call it a Z these days? Oh, it's like, what do we call this
I
thing?
don't know. I mean,
Cheat?
and I guess Power X, sure, that works. I'm still
Yeah. Okay.
adapting. I still get shock every time I see a black notification on my phone. I'm like, what is this?
Seriously, and I think they like changed the notifications that I normally get because my phone blows up all the time. Right? It's just constant X notifications. But yeah, if you're not a Power X user and you're not going to go find it right now, once again, I will mention it here and then I won't say it again until the end of the show. Go find the show notes and you'll be able to find that tweet and interact with it because that's what they're asking you to do, interact with their tweets. So please take the time to do so. I think our last tweet that we have lined up here, let's see, bring that up there, Web3 Rob G. Yeah, is from Crypto Insider. And I think it's really great. This was in response to the tweet from Ryan Sean Adams talking about PayPal launching a stable coin on the Ethereum network. Fabian says, yet another ERC20. Hey, PayPal, you're welcome. LSP7 will be better, will be a better token standard, and it's gonna happen on Lux, so you'll get there sooner or later. I love the confidence. I also love the fact that ERC20s is where we started. LSP7s are a token standard. Again, if we're talking about these new LSP, we have to all get kind of normalized to or start to understand. LSP7 is like that equivalent of the ERC20, but upgraded significantly to take advantage of things like the universal receiver, which is what we want. I love this tweet. And thank you, Crypto Insider, for surfacing this because although it was probably in a lot of people's feeds, Crypto Insider, just like many of you people who live out there on social media, have reaches into different communities, and we're all just trying to evangelize this.
Yeah, shout out Crypto Insider, always dropping some really heat and some fire on the LUKSO side of things. But yeah, you're right. Like I feel like the LSP is like it's the fancy version of ERC20, right? If we go with the fancy analogy, but it's like it's definitely going to be a better standard. And a lot of these things, like I think people will come to realize once they see, once they see us rolling full steam, just how much more utility comes along with building and creating on Luxo, right? Like I think ERC20s, they're kind of looking I don't know. Right? I mean, they're about to get a big upgrade. Let's just keep it simple and just say that. And I think that's going to open a lot of eyes, including people like PayPal when they start realizing the true potential to build these things on Lux. So I think it's going to be quite a bit of a rush for people to come over and test this stuff out. And that's where the transaction relayer, the team kind of taking care of those gas fees for a while to let people come over and just test it out and kind of play around and see what's up. And I think they're going to be really excited once they do.
Yeah, I love that. And we want people to see what's up. So that brings us to a tweet from Crypto Horse. I believe that's our next tweet. Yeah, I love it. Saying, okay, this is my universal profiles from Luxo. That kind of follows up. Before I move off this tweet, this is a screen that you probably will encounter if you go to download the Universal Profiles browser extension. Right now, you can get it for testnet. Soon, when we have a full public launch of UPS, ideally, these screens will stay similar or maybe exactly the same. Tough to predict right now, but I do know Altsys looks a lot like the screen that you have used, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Did you
super
find it to be
slick.
intuitive?
Yeah, it's very intuitive. And I think it's only going to get it more slick as we move along and kind of evolve. But it's very very simple and easy to do without knowing anything, right? And this is still the test. This is still the test net version, the main net test net version. We haven't gone officially live yet, so keep an eye out for that. But what it was like you said, middle September is probably a decent kind of marker to kind of aim for to start getting excited, for these ups to officially roll out.
Yeah, I love that. You highlight the testnet. So, if you can go get it right now, I believe that the Universal Page testnet is going to come up live any day. So you can grab that testnet up extension. You can go and use the Universal Page testnet DApp and get a sense for what is coming. And I think you'll be really impressed. And knowing that whatever comes with the full launch is only going to be improved from there. So please, my friends, go interact with it. The next tweet we have is from Jean Caballera, right? We talked about John a number of times. Why? Because John, even though he's a developer and he's on the smart contract team, he's out there and he's helping people out. And you can see that he quoted a Hugo tweet talking about Ledger, which we'll get to shortly. But John kind of gives an ELI 5, like he's explaining it like we're 5, interacting with the LUKSO blockchain. He says, because we always talk about up in the community, Newcomers to LUKSO often get confused. You can have an EOA and a private key on LUKSO, and you can hold your LUKS in it. This can be through a ledger, and you can interact with the LUKSO network using a MetaMask. But he says, this is the kicker, that once you use universal profiles, you will never want to use MetaMask again, because the experience is going to be so much better for the user. The interface is going to be much, much friendlier. And at that point, we're all going to understand how bad it is to normalize these very low and primitive technologies, like using externally owned accounts and private keys. And I guess pushing them on non-technical users. How many people have lost funds because they just were not prepared to deal with that type of scenario?
Right. Yeah, that's so well put. And nice breakdown from John there. And it's kind of like highlighting the conversion of people like, hey, here's a BlackBerry, you can do these certain things, and then it's like, oh, here's an iPhone, right? It's kind of like that dynamic difference of just like, what are you gonna pick, right? Once you have this beautiful, sleek, seamless, interface, it's gonna be so nice. And basically, what we're saying is like, you could still use MetaMask, and you can still use the hardware wallets in the same way with LYX as well, but you'll be doing yourself like a disservice not to take advantage of that up interface. And primitive, he noted there, it's such a fitting term to kind of the current state of the crypto UX, which has been the same since its inception. It's just so awful and convoluted, and it's dangerous. It's a lot to ask for the average person. They just simply they voted with their actions. They haven't done it. They've had no interest in doing this stuff themselves because the amount of work that goes into it. Now, the rest of us that have kind of understood where the future's headed, we just said, all right, whatever, shit, we'll just do the hard work because we understand the benefits that come with it. But for the average person, like, they just haven't got there yet. But luckily with LUKSO, like, they won't have to do any of that, and they can. If you want to get more technical, you can, and you can take control of those things. Like, it's an option based thing, which is that's the beauty of it, right? Is it kind of covers the full spectrum. But yeah, so another thing we've got, the next tweet we've got is actually from Hugo as well. This one gets me super stoked. I love seeing LUKSO, the mainnet LYX, is officially showing up on the Ledger platform now, right? Now, of course, being an Ethereum virtual machine, compatible, you could have already stored your LYX on your Ledger if you wanted. It just wouldn't have shown, LUKSO officially in their app and on the device, but now it does, right? And we can all kind of rest assured a little bit seeing it officially on the app. How does that make you feel with this update, Eth?
Oh man, that removes like a ton of anxiety for the average holder, and just call me John Average Holder. I'm a pretty experienced, I'm a pretty experienced blockchain user. Yet until this moment, I was kind of uncomfortable with migrating my Lux. Like, there are a lot of reasons for this, but maybe the main reason was that I wanted this simple and seemingly trivial assurance of being able to see the LUKSO network on my ledger. Prior to today, the chain ID was for like the deprecated Coven Ethereum testnet, that chain ID being number 42, which is the answer to all things, right? But this means that when you went to view the LUKSO network on a device like Ledger, it might show the wrong network. That would give someone like me sweaty palms. Even talking about it makes sweaty palms for me. So this tweet from Hugo was the signal I've been looking for, and I think a lot of let's call them John average users of blockchain are also looking for.
Yeah, a big sigh of relief on that one for the fam.
Yeah. And then I love this tweet, and this is the funny tweet, right? Hugo puts it out, Fabian gives a noise, and then we just see the virality of X, where now we just have people piggybacking with very noise, super noise, extraordinarily noise. I wish we could have got to be 15 more noises on there.
Embrace the Twitter chain.
I love it. I think we have a great community. It makes me really happy when we when we get together like this. So I guess that kind of closes our network update and brings us to the Pinkest Tweet. Now, Alts, you have a tweet here explaining visually what it feels like to pink pill somebody. Did I say pink pill? Pink pill somebody. Do me a favor and explain what it feels like with words.
I imagine pink pail is when you come up with a bucket full of pink pills and just like plop it down in front of them. But you're right, yeah, and make it rain pink pills on them. But yeah, let me just tell you, like, come maybe from the perspective of the person who's being pink pilled. Like, just close your eyes for a moment. Like, imagine you're floating out in the ether by yourself. you're lost to the void, you're yearning for more, like with an appetite for digital identity, onboarding the masses, sustainability, and a suite of tools to make the world a better place. But you're hopeless, for you don't know how these things can be possible. And in that darkest moment, you feel the warmth wash over your soul. You look up, you see Alt standing there, one of his 8 arms extended with a pink pill in hand. And you trust Alts because you know he's a fountain of alpha. So you just down the pill. And in the blink of an eye, the universe stops. Flashes of a fully decentralized future powered by the new creative economy floods into frame. This is it. This is the future. That's basically the process, from the pink pillar perspective.
Oh God, I had to work hard not to laugh over that entire thing. I was freaking dying.
That's
Oh,
ridiculous. I know it's absurd.
that's- I love it. I love when I typed that into our notes when I prompted you. I was like, "Oh, tell me what that's like." I knew I was going to get something ridiculous.
you, you can always count on me to bring the ridiculous meter up a little bit. But yeah, speaking of upgrading things, DMAT, they've actually upgraded their owners club card. So shout out DMAT. I didn't know this was even coming, and I'm happy to see it. And it makes sense. It's kind of the perfect time as we move in, closing in on universal profiles. The new designs are super slick. And yeah, Pixel Fam, shout out. That's me, Pixel Fam. Only 24 of us in existence right now. We are few, but we are the degens. And yeah, so what do you think of the new design, Eve?
Number one, I do not hold that card. Makes me very sad. But like I said, I was the guy who was always at work, away from my screen, couldn't buy things early on. You and Kriegel, very, very jealous of both you. Extreme FOMO on my end. If you're asking what I think like everything that DMAT does, these cards are just beautiful. I think it's important to keep in mind that DMAT did not need to do anything, but they did. They know that like discerning collectors like you and I are interested not only in the digital scarcity of collectibles, but really the art of the collectible as well. These membership cards are literally status, and that status endows a holder with like a certain amount of cultural currency to be able to get in events. They can be traded for experiences in an exclusive way. Plus, they're non-transferable tokens, meaning you couldn't sell it to me even if I offered you $1 million. Like you couldn't transfer it to me. That thing is literally a measure of how cool you are as a collector at DMAT. I think honestly, these tokens are built for multiverse experiences, and that multiverse experience is a concept that was referred to in the blueprint for the new creative economies. I think that that's really cool. Good for you all for having one of the super rare ones.
Thanks, fam.
God, and when I say multiverse experiences, enter Canvas Land, right? Canvas Land has popped up. Team in Hong Kong, really cool. They've done an event with KEEZ DAO already. I think we'll eventually get the Meta Yacht when it gets out of dry dock into a space so we can enjoy it together. But Canvas Land sees the future and is building out immersive environments where participants in this new creative economy can really kind of digitalize their interactions and meet together in local/non-local ways, kind of like we're doing right here, right now. Myself, Alt, and Rob are non-local. We're not together, but you would never know. Alt and I are in the metaverse or in this multiverse sitting in the same room together. And so is Rob, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Like we're kind of merging worlds and just kind of leveraging this technology as best we can. And I think it's only going to get kind of hypercharged, as these LUKSO standards kind of open up what's possible. Yeah, I love Canvas Land. They just got their foot on the pedal, just building and creating, just kind of laying the groundwork for what it is they're going to be laying out, once LUKSO goes full steam. So super excited for what they're building and just keep doing it.
Yeah, I guess leaning into the topic of digitalized lifestyles. How about the recent deplatforming on that X network, the old Twitter, like we've been talking about? I mean, tell me about that, Alt. How you feeling about it?
I mean, it's so brutal, man. Like it's got to be just devastating. Like recently, we saw the guy who had the X account, right? They just got that stripped away from him. And then the latest one a couple days ago was music. At music, this guy had been building with it for 16 years. 16 years. Imagine that, like holding it, building and creating, and then just to have it stripped away, like in the blink of an eye, like, and they just give you nothing in return. They're just like, here, sorry, here's an email. Cool, good luck. Like that's just brutal, man. I think people have to wake up to this. Like, this is the reality. This is the current state of Web 2. It's centralized. Like so many things need to become decentralized. Social media being one of the most important things, right, on the list. Like, it's such a large part of everyone's lives today, and there's just so many content creators out there that are just pouring their life and souls into their channels, right? And it's like, but they're vulnerable to this web 2 infection, right? Like, it's going to be so much better to have an up that can help protect our assets and our content and our interactions and our identity and reputation, right? Like, this stuff needs to be on chain so we can own it ourselves and not just, be vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to social media that is native to the blockchain, which removes these types of scenarios altogether. I mean, at music, probably valuable. It was so valuable, in fact, that X just took it away from them because they didn't want to pay for it because they didn't have to pay through the nose. In a future land, in a future social media space, perhaps powered by the LUKSO network and its LSPs, this shouldn't be possible. So I'm really looking forward to possibilities as we move forward here.
Yeah, me too, man. Just in general, like, I think the next wave of social media, like, it's going to be those social applications. Like, it's going to be a big catalyst for growth, because that's one thing too that, like, everyone on the planet is involved in, right? So I think, like, you're gonna really see it kind of, turbocharge everything that we're building. And it's like, we've been curious about how, that let's talk about one app, the LUKSO wardrobe app, right? We kind of were curious about that, and how that might kind of fold into things and the beta and stuff. And ETH actually put out a tweet yesterday, and Fabian was nice enough to chime in and let us know what's up with that. So from the sounds of it, the Up mobile app will be the ultimate profile controller. Like, that's going to be the bee's knees, right? And the team is they're also developing a web-based wallet that could integrate into the mobile app as well, which would be super sweet. But the hard part of all this stuff is it's the standards and it's the building blocks, which will make things a lot easier once everything's released. And then, there's like, for instance, there's a lot of great wallets, like Fabian alludes to, that are already out there. And those wallets could just easily integrate into an Up, if they wanted to. So I think the important part is that we've built this base, and it'll be really easy to, merge with, integrate to, or build on top of, moving forward.
Yeah, I appreciated the response from Fabian. I kind of just threw it out there. I said, "Is this gonna?" You and I were talking, planning for the show, and the question was, "Is this still in development?" Because if it is, people are just ignoring this really incredible digital closet. To have Fabian respond and say, "Hey, no, we're not doing that because universal profiles is really, like you said, it is the uh, I don't want to trivialize it by calling it a key because that's not it. Let's call it like passport to the new creative economy. Like, this bad boy is going to be the thing that allows you to enter all of these new dApps. So there was a tweet actually from Wolf of LUKSO that Wolf of LUKSO put out, and Wolf of LUKSO kind of identified these he did the standard meme thing, and he just pulled a bunch of social medias, right? And he said, with LUKSO powered universal profiles, there comes a redefining of industries and disrupting traditional business models. And, Wolf kind of gives a good little pitch there, but the meme itself is showing social medias, and then it's showing Up as like the biggest brain move. The Up itself, universal profiles itself, is not a social media, but what it is it's a graph. It's a social graph of users that can be connected in really, really interesting ways. I think that really kind of ties into maybe one of the more important, I guess, what do I want to say? It ties into this idea that Fabian spoke about many times, or the team at LUKSO has talked about many times, and this idea that um, other EVMs are like really clogged with financial use cases, right?
Yeah.
In the future, that's not necessarily what the value proposition of LUKSO is going to be, right? Like, this is not what we're looking for. That's not really where we're trying to go. That kind of ties into a tweet I put out before in response to this guy. Kenny Ray was here. Kenny Ray was a good guy, but what Kenny Ray said was like, how much Lux is going to be enough to change your life? And I said something to the effect of, I think Lux is going to change everybody's lives, right? And the reason why it's going to change everybody's lives is the future of LUKSO is really tied to this dApp layer. And that dApp layer is going to be like any other that exists in this space. This dApp layer is going to be incredibly valuable. And that's the real value proposition of LUKSO. It's not the EVM itself. It's not the network. There's already a large developer ecosystem working on the EVM. What we need is a developer base that's going to be building D apps that's going to integrate the full powers of the LSPs and the full power of universal profiles to take this latent social graph that we can connect through the universal profiles, but move all of those users into the DApp layer in a way that is like, that has far more interactions than we have right now, right? The idea right now, the DApp layer and existing EVMs, they're clogged with really purely financial use cases. Some establish credit and lending pools, and some are just ICOs hidden behind cartoonish artwork and connected to a very old 721 or 1155 token. That's not the future of LUKSO. I think all those tweets come together quite nicely to say, hey, we really need to move the entire narrative in this community away from LUKSO, the network, right? Because it's not the network that's exciting. It is the standards that are going to allow for this really rich DApp layer. And I know the team's been trying to say that, but like we're taking this platform here today to continue to hammer on that. The value proposition of LUKSO is not the EVM. The EVM has its own value proposition. The value proposition of LUKSO is this rich social DApp layer. Doesn't mean everything's a social media, but in the same way that X right now is working to reward creators, we can do that, but on chain in a verifiable way, in an egalitarian way, in a way that is open source, in a way that these Web2 companies could never do, right? We can fight that Web2 infection off alts to I guess bring that back and chuck a little bit.
Yeah, well said. Like ETH dropping bars on us today, man. That was, you got me Jones on that one. That little spiel there, that was beautiful. ETH, well done. And you're right, man. We're trying to move beyond. Like we've seen the upper limits of, you could call it, I mean, sure, Web3, but it's like the monetary side of Web3, right? ICOs, DeFi, NFTs, they're just mostly still at the stage, just monetary instruments for people to trade and invest in, right? But that's why we've hit this wall of like, there's still not that many people in crypto in general, right? If you go to the 7+ billion people on the planet, there's just like millions that actually use this stuff, right? And even then, how much are they actually using it on a daily basis? Like not much. So we're looking at, the true inherent value is how do we move beyond that into, this ecosystem of dApps to allow people to actually use the damn stuff, right? To actually use the blockchain. But it's like it needs to be seamless, like we keep alluding to, right? The UX has to change because people just simply can't, they're not going to use this on a daily basis. And they're not going to do things other than just financial instruments, unless the whole thing gets much, much simpler. So yeah, the core level, doing it all at the core level of an L1 to just set up for this ecosystem of budding dApps to just flourish and really see a new wave of adoption and of use cases. That's the true value, like you mentioned there, Ethan. That's what once you kind of take that pink pill and see that vision, it gets you really excited.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I mean, we're in a situation now where lots of us are blockchain users, but most of our social interactions happen outside of this network, right? So we're using a decentralized network for all of our financial means, but they have zero implications on the entire social layer, which really stitches this entire community together. LUKSO offers the opportunity to take this bifurcated world and just push it together. And I am really looking forward to that. And I think anybody who's here hanging around in the ecosystem, if you've been around and that value proposition has like entered your brain, you can't not see it. Like it's the idea in any one of these memes. I think I have one. It's like Ralph Wiggum. You take the pink pill, you put it on your tongue, and then your eyes turn into the LUKSO logo, which is, the way I think about it. Because once you see it, man, like you just want to keep talking about it. And for any new person who's just getting exposed to this ecosystem, that's what we're trying to tell you. We're trying to tell you that universal profiles is going to make it so you're not just a person signing transactions and then going to Twitter to talk or going to Discord to talk. You're going to be a person who is signing transactions, but then also talking on the network, signing transactions in there in a verifiable way, in a social way. This is, again, I'm at the risk of being redundant. This is the value proposition of LUKSO. And if you are focused on, does it solve one of the key pillars of the blockchain trilemma, right? You just honestly take that question and just Ask someone who's worried about the EVM because they're solving those problems. The LSPs are solving coordination issues between users.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. We're literally shaping the future in real time with these standards in this ecosystem. I think it's going to
Yeah.
really unfold over the next few months.
Yeah. Alt, are you bullish yet?
Keith, I get more bullish every day.
Uh, so we normally talk about the tokens at the beginning of the show, but there was a tweet, a tweet, a tweet. A tweet. Oh God, I'm like reading Saru's name and like saying tweet. It just smashed it into a tweet. There was a tweet from our friend Sandro, says he's really bullish about the Lux price, but why? Crystal ball. There's a lot that goes into this tweet. If you want to see all the stuff in that tweet, I want you to go check out our show notes. Plug again, quiet plug, so you can go pull these bad boys up. But there, he basically lays out from a let's say from a financial perspective why he is so bullish. I would say go give that a read, but I won't put that out on the air for everyone right here. Instead, I'm going to let the wizard himself do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great segue. He's like talking of, the overarching LUKSO future potential. Like we've got a fire soundbite from the wizard himself. It comes from the KuCoin deep dive spaces with LUKSO. This gentleman Star had asked Fabian, what his vision of LUKSO is over the next 5 years. But let's hear Fabian tell you himself. Oh, we don't got it. We don't got it. Oh shoot. Okay. Well, let's just we can highlight that clip, Eth. He basically
I
goes
guess
on to say that one of the biggest ecosystems in blockchain at LUKSO will be it's going to be. He imagines it landing in the top 10. Like, I mean, when you have that kind of forward facing vision, like he alludes to the fact that LUKSO is solving the problems that everyone else in the space has and is trying to scramble to figure out like how to get mass adoption and how to get full account abstraction and identity and reputation and all of these things. But LUKSO's figured out how to do them all at the core level, which is the key factor.
I love how we brought you right to the edge, right? We got you nice and teased up and then didn't deliver. But this is a live broadcast. That kind of stuff happens. So yeah, when you have Fabian saying that he believes that they are going to be, or by they, the LUKSO blockchain is going to be a top 10, and this is inevitable, that should make any person who's circling the bowl here very, very excited. I was excited. I was excited to hear the confidence. I mean, obviously, any Lux token holder is like, oh yeah. But if you're just interested in a world where users themselves are the beneficiaries of their interactions, then I am very excited about that. As content creators, we're across multiple platforms. If I could be on a platform where I never left basically my universal profile, right? I used it for all things, I would be ecstatic. And I think that that's the future. And that's why Fabian believes it's going to be a top 10 blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, once you kind of get an understanding of the core fundamentals of what we're actually trying to do with LUKSO, and like I said, we've had those of us who've been kind of OGs in the LUKSO ecosystem. We've had a few years to kind of ruminate with these things and let it kind of settle with us. And this is stuff we were talking about 3 years ago. We were trying to imagine how a lot of these things would play out and kind of what the tools would be that we would need and kind of what the use cases might be. But, now it's so interesting because we see it come full circle, all the way from the white paper where other people in this space are really like, if you kind of talk about the narrative across everything, you kind of realize the people out there, like when you go to these conferences, right? And when you watch all these different things, like the rumblings are it's this wave's going to be about account abstraction. And that's like the number one thing that people think will, be the hype of this next wave of adoption. And it's just funny because we just kind of giggle and know the truth that like we've been building this for years. We're so far ahead of the game. And I think everyone they get excited about these little piecemeal things, like 4337. It's a small little piece of the puzzle, or ENS, right? It's like you're talking about a 1% piece of a much bigger puzzle, right? Like the actual concept of just moving beyond wallets and having a core concept of a profile that you run all of this stuff through, that's actually how you actually break the code, right, to mass adoption. And people just haven't woken up to that yet, I think, but they're getting closer and closer by the day because we see them out there scrambling now and they're trying to figure these things out. But like we said, they're trying to do it on a much more convoluted, congested network with L1 and L2s, and it's just kind of a mess, right? And you're trying to get people to retroactively adopt standards, and that's just a much more complicated, big ask, as opposed to saying, here's a fresh slate, uncongested network, beautiful standards, go build and create.
I like that. A blank canvas, and they're giving us the paints and the crayons to make things happen. Appreciate it. You might be a painter, Alts. I'm a crayon user.
Your crayon. I like to paint digitally in virtual reality. That's my favorite.
Okay, blowing my mind. Paint digitally in virtual reality. I love the world sometimes we hang out in where you can get the pencil and you start drawing things, although usually there's users in there that are drawing lewd things, so you got to watch out for that, but it's a good time.
It is definitely a good time. But yeah, actually, so now let's take a moment. I wanted to give a shout out to the LUKSO Metaheads group. The Twitter chat. It's always been a great vibe. And once Twitter recently took off their limits to the amount of people that could be in the Twitter chat, we've been growing up. And there's been some wonderful streams of alpha in there. We've jumped from 78. I don't even know what we're at now today. Do you know what we're at, Eth?
I don't know. It's close to 120, might be growing.
Nice. And this is like true organic stuff, and the energy is just great, and it keeps getting better. So if you are LUKSO DGen like us and want to keep chatting about this stuff, just ping one of us, and we can try to get you added.
Yeah, it's not meant to be an exclusive chat, but we are limited to whatever X will allow us to have. The Metaheads chat's really the Metaheads chat. I don't know why I'm tripping over my words today. It's like I got marbles in my mouth. The MetaHeads chat is really a great way to connect with the native users on the X blockchain in our blockchain XNet. Oh my God, X platform in our native home. Like there are chats in Telegram and Discord, but what we found is that people kind of talk where they're comfortable. And Alt and I are Twitter native or X native, and that's our platform of preference. So if your platform of preference is X, like Alt said, hit one of us up and we'll add you. And you can join the group. And sometimes there's jokes, sometimes there's alpha, and more often than not, there's good vibes. So I would just say, welcome, arms open. We'll give you a hug.
I'll give you an 8-armed hug.
I love it. All right, so Alt, that kind of brings us towards the end of the show here. I think there's a couple things that I just want to bring up and plug here at the end. Next week, we will be back with a recorded Pink Pill. It won't be the full show because we still have, like I said, the Meta Yacht in dry dock, but we're going to have a micro dose for you. Why? Because it's kind of fun. We had some fun with VR Talic the other week or last week. And maybe this week we'll be fighting off the Web 2 infection. Hint, hint.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, fam. Every time we get in the lab and start making this content for the recorded shows, there's plenty of laughs to be had. So I think it's gonna be a fun one. You guys are gonna be excited to see this one, I think. But yeah, it's always a pleasure, just going living live in VR with you here, Eth. And shout out to the fam who did tune in live. And for those of you watching later at your own time, we appreciate your support. And we're still early, fam. I think over the next few months and into like the next year and a half, as the entire ecosystem and just crypto in general kind of gets livens back up, we're going to be positioned to really have a lot of fun and blow a lot of people's minds. So yeah, we appreciate you, fam.
Absolutely. Hey, if I could ask you to do anything, if you got a tweet that you want to have featured in the wrap up because you think it's great, we might think it's great too, but finding it can be very difficult. Just give us a hashtag wrap up at the end of your tweet, and then it'll be easy for us to index those when we put our shows together on Thursdays.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
I thought of that one on the fly, Alts.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great comment. I was thinking that earlier, actually. So that's beautiful that you said that. Yeah, because like I said, we always kind of scour the Twitterverse to see what we can find, concerning LUKSO for great alpha to drop in here. So if you ever have anything great, just send it our ways. And if you ever have any sort of content that or project or anything you might want to plug, just feel free to share it with us, and we'll see what's up. So, to kind of close us out here, Eth, I did have a question for you, buddy.
All right. Yeah. Let's go. Come on. Bring it on.
Okay, so I downloaded a VR app that would simulate the Titanic, but I haven't been able to play it yet. Do you know why?
After last week when it was VR ready, now I'm looking for VR something and I can't get it. Someone's got this in the audience and I don't. All right, go. Hit me with it.
It's still syncing.
Fatality.
Oh, the level of
Oh,
these awful jokes is just it's going lower and lower and lower. I love it. I absolutely love reveling in these terrible jokes.
perfect.
But no, we like we said, we appreciate you, fam. Thanks for vibing with us. We hope your Friday is going great, leading into your weekend, and have a wonderful weekend, fam. And do us a favor and stay pink